My name is Claire, and I'm 45. I never planned to see my ex-husband again, especially not while wearing his old shirt. I hadn't worn his shirt in over a year. It was a soft, olive green button-down that once smelled like cedarwood and warmth. It had always been too big on me, sleeves rolled up to my elbows, the hem hanging down to mid-thigh. When we were married, I'd wear it when I missed him, when he traveled for work. And after the divorce, well, I kept it. Not for sentiment, I told myself. Just for comfort. That morning, I pulled it out of the drawer because the air was cool and my coffee had grown cold before I could finish it. I was halfway through organizing the boxes in my spare room, boxes labeled someday, maybe, and donate, when the knock came at the door. 3 firm taps. Then silence. I thought maybe it was the mailman or the neighbor's kid again, asking if I had more of those honey sesame granola bars. But when I opened the door, it was neither. It was him. Ethan. My ex-husband. I stood there in the threshold, barefoot, hair pulled up in a messy bun, Ethan's own shirt hanging loosely from my frame, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. "Hey," he said, voice a little huskier than I remembered. His brown hair was shorter, his stubble thicker. He looked older. Tired. But familiar. Painfully familiar. I crossed my arms over my chest, suddenly aware of the shirt. "Ethan? What are you doing here?" He shifted awkwardly, one hand rubbing the back of his neck. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd drop off the photo albums you left at my place." He held up a worn box with my handwriting on the side, photos, 2002 to 2010. I hadn't even realized it was missing. "Oh," I said, stepping aside. "You didn't have to, but thanks." "Come in?" I didn't mean it. Or maybe I did. He hesitated, eyes flicking down to the shirt. I could see it in his face, the slow recognition. That shirt. His shirt. My heart gave a tiny, traitorous twist. He stepped inside. The house hadn't changed much since he'd left. Same taupe walls, same creaky floorboards. The only real difference was the echo. Without him, without our dog Max, everything just echoed. I set the box on the coffee table and gestured toward the kitchen. I was about to make another cup of coffee. "Want one?" He nodded. "Sure. Thanks." We moved like 2 people on a stage, overly careful with our steps, our words. I poured coffee into mismatched mugs. He took the one with the chipped edge like he always used to. "Still drink it black?" I asked, handing it to him. He gave a lopsided smile. "Some things don't change." I raised my brows. "Some things do." A beat passed between us. He looked around the kitchen, taking in the little changes, new curtains, a vase of fresh lavender on the windowsill, the absence of his favorite cast iron skillet. "Place looks good," he said, quiet. I leaned against the counter. I finally learned how to use the drill. Hung some shelves last spring. He chuckled softly. "You always hated power tools." "I hated the noise," I corrected. "Not the independence." He nodded slowly, then sipped his coffee. "So," I said after a moment. "Why now, Ethan? Why bring the albums after all this time?" He stared into his mug. "I don't know. I was cleaning out the attic. Found them. Thought about you. Thought maybe," he looked up. "Thought maybe it wasn't too late to say something. The thing about divorce is, it doesn't end everything. You divide the assets. Split the bank accounts. Sign the paperwork. But some things? Some things stay unresolved." The photo albums were filled with memories of holidays, road trips, birthday cakes, lazy Sunday mornings. Smiles we used to share before resentment crept in like mold. We hadn't shouted our way apart, we just grew cold. Tired. Frustrated with each other's silences. You never said why you stopped coming home on time, I murmured, not even sure why I was saying it now. He set his cup down. I didn't think it mattered anymore. It does. At least to me. Ethan exhaled and sat on the edge of the couch. Because I felt like a failure, Mari. I felt like everything I did was never enough. You were pulling away and I didn't know how to stop it. So I stopped trying. I stood frozen, my arms hugging myself. His shirt, the one I had wrapped around my loneliness for months, suddenly felt heavier. I wasn't pulling away, I whispered. I was drowning. And I didn't want to be a burden. He looked up, pain and regret etched into every line of his face. You weren't a burden. You were everything. I just didn't know how to hold on to you without feeling like I was losing myself. Silence settled between us. Years' worth. We spent the next hour flipping through the albums, laughing at our awful hairstyles in the early 2000s, remembering little moments we had forgotten we ever shared. There was one photo, us on the beach in North Carolina, him lifting me into the air, my arms around his neck, both of us laughing. I loved that weekend, I said softly. I did too, he replied. I've thought about it a lot. We sat shoulder to shoulder, not touching, but the warmth between us was undeniable. You still wear it? He asked, nodding toward the shirt. I looked down and smiled sheepishly. Only when I miss who we used to be. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers trembling just slightly. I miss it too. Then, gently, his hand cupped my cheek. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But he leaned in, forehead resting against mine, and we just stayed like that, breathing the same air, wrapped in everything that hadn't been said. The forecast had warned of light rain, but by late afternoon, it poured like the sky had been waiting weeks to cry. The rhythm of it drumming against the windows filled the silences that lingered between Ethan and me. We sat there on the couch, the photo albums forgotten between us, as thunder murmured in the distance. I stood to close the kitchen window but paused when I heard Ethan behind me. You still leave the windows open when it rains? He asked. I shrugged. Sometimes it feels like the house needs to breathe. He was close now. Too close. I felt the warmth of him at my back. Then, without a word, he reached over and helped slide the window down. His arm brushed against mine, and for one lingering second, his hand rested at the small of my back. I closed my eyes. How many mornings had we spent standing just like this, coffee in hand, listening to the rain? I used to love the sound of rain with you, he said, voice low, almost reverent. I turned to him slowly, and our eyes met, soft, uncertain, aching. I never stopped loving it, I replied. And then, just like that, he wrapped his arms around me. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't full of longing or need. It was something quieter. A remembering. A sigh of recognition between two people who had once been everything to each other. My cheek rested against his chest, and I let the rain and his heartbeat sink in my ears. His hand ran slowly up my back, fingers grazing the fabric of his old shirt. You always looked better in it than I did, he murmured. That made me smile. We stood like that until the thunder passed. It was strange being in the bedroom again with him, not our bedroom, not anymore, but the guest room I had turned into my personal retreat. I called it my peace room, books stacked neatly on the dresser, a diffuser quietly breathing lavender into the air, soft yellow lighting that made everything feel calm. He followed me in, uninvited but welcome, carrying a second box from his car I didn't know he had brought, more of our things. Letters. Trinkets. A pressed flower from our first anniversary that I had thought lost. You kept this? I asked, holding up the fragile bloom between my fingers. I kept everything, he said, his voice cracking a little. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the box. The weight of old memories hit harder than expected. Some joyful, some unbearable. He knelt beside me and took my hand. We made mistakes, Mari. I know that. But I don't think we ever stopped loving each other. We just got lost. I looked down at our hands, his thumb moving slowly over mine. He used to do that whenever I was nervous. It had always calmed me. It still did. I used to lie awake thinking it would have been easier if you cheated. Or yelled. Or stormed out, I said. But I just left, quietly. I nodded. That made it harder to hate you. His eyes met mine, filled with something I couldn't quite name. Regret, maybe. Or hope. Then, in the softest voice, he said, "Can I kiss you, Mari?" My breath caught. I didn't answer with words. I just leaned in. The kiss was tender. Familiar. A slow rediscovery of a language we'd once spoken fluently. His lips pressed gently against mine, his hands cradling my face. There was no urgency, no rush, just a quiet ache, a desire to feel again, to heal what had been broken not by violence, but by distance. When we pulled apart, I didn't open my eyes right away. "I don't know what this means," I whispered. "Neither do I," he replied, "but I know it means something." That night, he didn't leave. We didn't make love, not in the way people rush into bed with years of separation between them. Instead, we stayed in the peace room, curled under a blanket, his arm around me, my head on his shoulder. We talked until the clock blinked past midnight. About little things. Big things. The in-between things that once got lost in the noise of daily life. He told me about his apartment in Syracuse. About the novel he'd started and abandoned halfway. About the woman he dated briefly who smiled too much and listened too little. I told him about my panic attack last Thanksgiving. About how I broke down over a burnt pie crust because it reminded me of him. About the time I stood in the grocery aisle holding his favorite peanut butter for 20 minutes, trying not to cry. We were honest that night, raw and stripped down. No ego. No armor. Just two people trying to find each other in the wreckage of what had once been home. At one point, I turned to him and said, "I wore your shirt that day. The day the papers came." He looked down at me. "Why?" "Because I didn't want to feel alone. Because I didn't know how to let go of all of you." He kissed my forehead and held me tighter. We fell asleep like that, wrapped in an old love trying to grow new roots. I woke up before him. For a moment, in the soft morning light, I just watched him sleep. His chest rose and fell in the calm rhythm I remembered so well. His hair was mussed from the pillow, lips slightly parted. There was something heartbreakingly human about seeing someone you once loved, still loved, resting in your bed after years of silence. I slipped out quietly and made coffee. The familiar hum of the machine filled the kitchen like a whisper of a life that had almost been ours. When he came in, barefoot, eyes still sleepy, his t-shirt wrinkled, I handed him a mug. He took it like he used to, fingers brushing mine, eyes searching my face. "Did you sleep okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Best in months." I looked down at my hands. The coffee felt suddenly too hot. "Last night," I began. He stepped closer. I meant every word. He reached out and gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered. "I've been thinking about this for a long time, Mari. About you. About us. What we lost. What we left behind." I could feel my throat tightening. "I don't want to rush into anything." I'm not the same woman you married. I don't want her, he said. I want the woman you are now. The woman who wears my shirt because it makes her feel something again. The woman who learned how to hang her own shelves and still cries at old photographs. Tears stung my eyes. I need to know, he said, softly, earnestly. Would you consider trying again? Not picking up where we left off, but starting over. Building something new. My breath hitched. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the man I once married, but the man who came back when he didn't have to. Who listened. Who apologized. Who kissed me like it was the first time, not the 1000th. I didn't answer right away. But I didn't say no. We started slow. He didn't move in. We didn't call it a relationship. We called it a rediscovery. Every Tuesday, he came over for dinner. Every Friday, I went to his place and helped him with his writing. Sometimes we walked through the park, hand in hand, talking about things we never used to, our fears, our regrets, our hopes. And in between, we kissed. Not often. Not in a rush. But always softly, like we were learning each other all over again. There were hard days, of course. Days when I questioned everything. Days when the old habits crept in, defensiveness, distance, fear. One evening, I found myself snapping at him for something small, a forgotten errand, and I saw the hurt flicker in his eyes. I'm scared, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Scared that this will fall apart again. That I'll get used to loving you, and then lose you all over. He didn't argue. Didn't try to fix it. He just pulled me into his arms and held me. His chin rested on the top of my head. I can't promise we won't hurt each other, he whispered. But I can promise I won't leave when we do. And in that moment, I believed him. 6 months later, I stood in front of the mirror wearing the same olive green shirt. It was late spring. The house smelled like lilacs and lemon oil. The windows were open. My world felt different. Wider. Warmer. Ethan came over carrying a brown bag of groceries and a bouquet of wildflowers. I smiled when I saw him. You're wearing it again, he said, setting the bag on the counter. I nodded. I thought it was only fair to wear it on the night I tell you I'm ready. His eyes softened. Ready for what? For us, I said. All in. No walls. No past. Just you and me. Starting over. He crossed the room in 3 steps and kissed me, slowly, sweetly, like it was the first day of the rest of our lives. We danced in the kitchen, barefoot and quiet, the music of spring drifting through the windows. His hands on my waist, my cheek against his shoulder. And when we kissed again, it wasn't a question anymore, it was a vow. Later, as we sat on the porch swing, watching the sun dip low, he turned to me and said, "You saved that shirt." I looked down at the soft green fabric. "No," I said. "It saved me." He pulled me close. I tucked my legs over his lap. His hand found mine, fingers lacing together in perfect memory. We didn't need to say more. Because in that moment, surrounded by the scent of flowers, the hum of summer insects, and the echo of laughter we thought we'd lost, I realized. He had always been home. Even when I had forgotten the address.